Here's one out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick sails the night for the Big Red. We're done. Huskers win. Golly, grandkids.
They got a storm on the floor. Love it. Say your name, Fred Hoiberg. There's your signature win.
The Nebraska Cornhuskers have run the table and run it back. Back-to-back Big Ten tournament champions.
Here's Tom Stevens and Mike Melby on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Now the drive on the right side to Kropp. Drop step, puts it up, missed the shot. Ball tip, Jacobson to Hoiberg. Looks up the floor, gets it back to Jacobson. Throws it to Sanford, shoots up a 30-footer. Bang! Bang, Ringo. Holy smokes! The Huskers are on fire!
Congrats to Nebraska. Heck of a team, man. I told Fred before the game, I admire the way they play. Got a bunch of guys who are just a collection of their parts. I mean, it's really refreshing to watch, and the purity that they play, the joy they play with, the toughness they play with, and you saw firsthand today. You know, it's why they're 18-0, and we're just not at that level. You know, thought we played pretty well for 20 minutes, and then in the second half, I thought they wore us down, and we just haven't been mentally tough enough to kind of fight through those situations, unfortunately, you know, in our league games. And it's kind of been a common theme, and we're going to continue to work on it. And, but, you know, I thought that second half, when the game got away from us, their toughness and kind of togetherness and kind of resolve just was able to wear us down over time.
It is a tough team. I don't know that that's the first word that comes to mind when you think of Nebraska. You think of pretty basketball. You think of playing together. You think of a connected team. But they're a tough team, and I don't know that they always get enough credit for that. This is one of the tougher teams. This is the toughest team that certainly Fred Hoiberg has had, and one of the toughest teams mentally. And toughest doesn't always mean physically tough. Sometimes, to me, it means mentally tough. And this is a tough, mentally tough team.
It is, and I think the toughness that he's talking about, there's back-to-back possessions in the second half when Nebraska was able to make the 17-3 run, and basically both of them were shot clock violations. The one they threw up some prayer that I don't remember if it hit the rim or not, but back-to-back possessions. And every single time, no matter who on Northwestern grabbed the ball and for half a second started to put a shot up, realized in that half a second, he's right, I can't. Like the defense is so suffocating. And when they play at that level, that's the toughness I think that Chris Collins is talking about. And it's so fun to watch because we've seen super athletic teams that do that to Nebraska in the past.
Yeah.
Nebraska's not a super athletic team. They're an unbelievably basketball intelligent team.
Yeah.
From a basketball IQ standpoint, this is Mensa level. Okay, this is Mensa level plus. This group of individuals may have the highest collective basketball IQ on any college team in the last 20 years.
Well, they're an
It's
old team.
insane.
They're definitely an old team. And Rick Mass, obviously the oldest. He's a 7-year vet. But even Sanford, first year here, is a junior. Obviously, Sam Hoiberg has been here. This is his 5th year at Nebraska, and they're 18-0. Did we mention Nebraska basketball is 18-0, number 8 in the country? They've won 22 straight. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens, Husker Rewind, thanks for joining us. Nebraska knocks off Northwestern 77-58 yesterday. Northwestern, a team, you're talking about the defense, came in averaging 78 points. Nebraska holds them to 58. Nick Martinelli had 22, but only 7 in the second half. This is Fred Hoiberg talking about the defense on Martinelli in the second half.
Our big message to our team with Martinelli was just try to make his shots as difficult as possible. And if you make some of them, you can't get deflated. You can't hang your heads. He's so unique in his ability to hit that 15, 16-foot floater, that really sometimes not even looking at the basket. He's so talented and as gifted a scorer as well he is. He's the best scorer in college basketball, leading the nation. in that area. So, I did. I thought our double teams were more crisp. I thought we were there. I thought we contested. We talked about making a team shoot through the goalposts, and I thought we did a solid job of that in the second half.
Nebraska improves to 18-0. If you would have said at the start of this season, Nebraska will be 18-0, and Indiana will win the college football playoff, people would have said you're nuts. After they stopped laughing.
There'd have been a lot of people running naked down O Street and whatever. If they said that, well, the one guy, how about, is it Paul Feinbaum that said that going into the college football playoff this year, that if an SEC team does not win it, he will move out of the country. And everybody is like, where are you going? See ya.
Oh man, nobody likes Paul. I don't even think his family likes Paul Feinbaum.
No. So really interesting. I want to throw this in because the little memes and the gifts and all the stuff that have popped up from various Husker type Twitter accounts and all that. It's been really funny. And I saw one earlier today, Husker Hoop Central, their Twitter account. It's a photo, and you got a referee going 3-point.
Yeah.
Okay. You got Price Sanford 3, right? Yeah. You got Kent at the broadcast table standing up.
Yes.
Okay. You got Jake West of Northwestern just kind of like, and in the background, leaning against the scorer's table like this, Fred.
Right.
And then they put little numbers by the people. Number 1's the ref. Yep, that's a 3 with captions. Number 2 is Kent. Banga, ranga, ranga, rango. Right?
Yeah.
Number 3 is Price. Hey, I made another 3. Jake West is 4. The caption is, damn, he made another 3. And Fred, his caption is, man, we've got to be better on the defensive boards.
Yep.
But that play encapsulates to me, or that little whatever mem or whatever you want to call it, is so funny to me because in Fred's mind, he's got that TO ability to think ahead. What's going on right now? If we do this, how are they going to counter? And then if they counter with A or B, how am I going to count? Like you just see the wheels turning all the time.
And how often does the conversation with Fred start with, it all starts with the defense?
Yeah.
And I don't know that Fred said that year 1, 2, or 3. It was about his offense. That's what we thought we were getting from Fred Hoiberg. But you got to have shooters to space the floor to get the offense that we've seen in the last few years. And the turnaround didn't start this year. I mean, that K-State team a couple of years ago that made the NCAA tournament was obviously fun to watch. But they've really turned it around now officially because they've got a defense. And it's Nate Lenzer that gets all the credit for that. He's a defensive coordinator. Fred's the offensive coordinator. I don't know how many teams in college basketball do that, but that's what Nate focuses on. He came in, he was kind of a shooter guru, and he did a lot of that. He had an NBA background, but he's really gotten into that role of being the defensive guy, and that's what he thinks about 24/7. Shutting down opponents. But how many times do you hear Fred say, well, yeah, we didn't play well in that first half because we weren't physical. We weren't getting the body on them. We weren't getting enough deflections. And in the second half, the game turned. Nebraska up 34-29 in the first half. They go on that 17-3 run late in about 13, 14 minutes left to go.
It was 52-44, and they score 11 straight. Northwestern answers with a 3, and then they score 6 more straight. So it's 17-3.
It kind of ended with that Price Sanford 3.
Yeah.
But they're doing that. There was a stat, and I got to credit Caleb Henry that had it on the I-80 show. By the way, we'll have Jack Mitchell on at 6:00 talking about runs. And I think they call it kill shots. And Nebraska's had more kill shots than anybody in the country, and that's like a 10-0 run. With the exception of Michigan.
I want to say they've had 23 10-0 plus runs in games this year.
And it factors in defense along with kill shots. And Nebraska's had a bunch of them. Think back to, just the last 3 games, Indiana, where that lead from Indiana disappeared like before you know it.
Yeah.
I mean, they were up, well, I don't know where they are. Was it 14, something like that? And Nebraska gets back into it. It gets back in a hurry. You might have said that Indiana had a kill shot, and then Nebraska had a kill shot as well. But they definitely had one against Oregon. They had one against Indiana, and they had one yesterday against Northwestern.
So you had mentioned, when did the turnaround with Fred start? And you talk about it. And I love the fact that you point out, and you pointed out earlier when we were talking, college teams don't do this, have an offensive and a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And essentially that's what they've done.
Not that I know of.
But do you know when this turned around for Coach Hoiberg with what's going on today?
Which team?
There's 4 days of practice that I say, and of course I'm an idiot, over the top Nebraska basketball fan, but I truly believe that Wednesday, February 1st, Thursday the 2nd, Friday the 3rd, and Saturday the 4th, okay, of make sure I get the year right, of 2023,
okay.
Those 4 days, okay, so February 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Practice those 4 days, followed a 5-game losing streak. Nebraska just got smoked at Illinois, 72-56. They got beat by 19 against Maryland. They lost by 15 to Northwestern, 11 to Penn State, 5 in a row. They weren't in any of them. And then Sunday, February 5th at home, they find a way to win with a makeshift lineup because Emmanuel Bandamel and Juwan Gary both were out with injuries from the prior 7 to 8 games. Okay, those 4 days of practice, Nebraska won that Sunday. They lose at Michigan, but then they reel off 4 straight wins. They win 5 out of their last 6. Ultimately, in the Big Ten tournament, they do not play well. They lose 75-70 or 78-75 to Minnesota. But that 4 days of practice in 2023, February 1st through the 4th, I truly believe is what changed. Something changed in the Hendricks.
That's about the right time frame. It's been
in the Hendricks
3-year
training
run.
complex. That those 4 days of practice, and one of them may have been a mental day where they just took the day off. But those 4 days, everything flipped for Nebraska basketball. And I get it. They didn't go to the NCAA tournament last year and not having rank, and it wasn't as successful a year as you wanted. They did have a 6-game losing streak. I get all of that. But the setup, the build-up to 18-0, the build-up to probably number 7 ranking in the country tomorrow at 11 a.m. when they release the AP poll, all of that to me started February 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of 2023. Those 4 days in the Hendricks Trading Complex, Nebraska basketball changed who they are, what they're about. They became gritty. They became tough. And now they play like that to the point where they've got Chris Collins going, they're just tougher than we are. Yeah, it all started, I think, back then.
Well, we make the comparison a little bit to Indiana, and Indiana is one of the oldest teams, I think maybe the oldest team in college football. Their average age between 22 and 25. And Nebraska really has followed that same type of recipe. They're one of the older teams in college basketball. And not only that, but guys have been in the system for a while. Rick Mass was on that team in 2023. You had Cale Jacobson. Tamanaga is gone. But you had Blaze Keita. You had Jamarcus Lawrence, who is now back. Aaron Eulis was on that team. Juwan Gary, Bryce Williams, Sam Hoiberg. C.J. Wilcher was also on that team. But a lot of the same guys that were on that team are still here. And they developed a culture. We've talked about a culture for Nebraska basketball. I think we've been looking for an identity for Nebraska basketball for a long time, even under Fred Hoiberg. What is the identity? And I thought it would be pretty offense. That's what I thought it would be when he came from Iowa State, then to the NBA, then back to college ball with Nebraska. I thought it would be similar to what we're seeing now offensively. I didn't anticipate the defense.
Yeah.
And that's Nate Lenzer.
There was another tweet that was put out, and it was a video of a play, and I can't remember who did it. It was a national guy, though. And he stated every coach from NBA down to high school needs to pay attention and watch Nebraska basketball film. And he shows a play and he says, no one stops moving. Spacing is immaculate. Ball never stops. And it's a play that Nebraska does not dribble. And it's not that everybody's moving all the time. It's that someone's always moving. The spacing is always perfect. And as a defense, you don't know what play they're calling because they're all run out of basically the same set. And you don't know what number guy is going next.
Yeah.
Somebody at the top of the key's got the ball. Somebody's coming from the right corner up to get a screen. They're going to move the ball over there. Or somebody's going to fake going to the right to set the screen. Spin around
that ghost screen
do a ghost screen
that Rink set early in the where he could have maybe gone to the hoop, but he stops as if he's screening. He goes through the screen, his ghost screen. There was no screen, but he's wide open for the three as well. You see that all the time.
Yeah, that's
where the guy that sets the screen
of the game
ends up being the beneficiary. Yeah. A lot of times it's a backdoor pass.
Yeah.
Sam has done that several times where he sets a screen down low and he ends up. By the way, Sam Hoiberg, how many times has he gone to the rim and gotten it over bigger guys this year? It's just been a team that's so fun to watch. But you talk about the pace of play and the offense, and that's what I thought we were getting when we got Hoiberg at Nebraska. And I thought it would look like some of the things that we've seen from both Frager and Sanford, because when those guys are on the break, it's just beautiful. This is Fred Hoiberg talking about getting Sanford and Frager open on the break.
And Price missed probably his two best looks of the night. And he just, when he gets loose in transition, our guys have done a great job of finding him. We've really stressed that to our team. When we're at the break is do everything you can to locate where Price is, where Braden is, to our shooters, where Rink is, sometimes trailing the play when he hasn't going. And our guys have really bought into that. And again, that speaks to the unselfishness. I think the maturity of this team. It's an old group, and they've really bought into the whole team concept on both ends of the floor. And again, that makes our job as coaches a lot easier when you can hold them accountable. They don't take it personal. They don't, there's never been one time where they've talked back or hung their heads. And we're going to have to continue with that. We told them in the locker room, win the recovery day tomorrow. And, let's bounce back with 2 great days to prepare for a really unique team that's got a ton of talent in Washington.
Well, you mentioned it, and he's done this for maybe the last 5 or 6 games. Who's satisfied? They go to the locker room. They celebrate for about 10 seconds. And then Fred says, who's satisfied? And nobody is. I remember after the Michigan State game where you could tell that Rink was looking over at Bear K and thinking, is he satisfied? Because we don't need to get this guy satisfied. And it turns out that Bear K looks the least satisfied. He was the one that maybe I was most worried about for a while. But, man, he's a glue guy, along with Hoiberg. Along with Jacobson. They have guys that just know their role. And that's what every coach has said, and including Chris Collins. It's a thing of beauty. They all want it from their own team, and they can't get it. Nebraska's wanted it for a long time, and then haven't been able to get it. But I think sometimes it just takes a really old team that buys in.
It does. And another thing that I want to point out, and something you said there made me think of this, specifically about Burke. There were more Nebraska fans in Welsh Ryan Arena yesterday than there were Northwestern fans.
There were.
And it was their purple out. It was their special.
Yes.
This is the biggest game of the year. This is what we're going to hang our hat on. This is what we're going to, market behind and promote. And there were more Nebraska fans. Burke at home, when he's involved in a physical play, it's so fun because the arms are up and he's trying to get the crowd going. He got smacked in the face with an elbow on a play and gets up and starts getting the crowd going.
That happened to him earlier this year with blood in his mouth.
But we were on the road.
Yeah.
He's literally that's what made me think of that play though, is he's doing that, but he's doing it in an opposing arena that has more Nebraska fans than the home team fans.
This is Hoiberg.
My goodness.
Hoiberg is talking about the fan. I mean, it was amazing. There were so many Husker fans in Welsh Ryan Arena.
But it was amazing. I walked out of the tunnel, in the pregame, and I looked up, and the whole balcony looked like it was red. It's incredible to have that support. It means a ton to our staff, to our team, to our program, when you can have that kind of support on the road. And it's going to be full again at PBA. I think every ticket is sold the remaining part of the season. I know we're going to get a good group on the road when we play like we did tonight. That makes a difference. It really matters and helps us go, especially when we're going on runs.
We got Washington Wednesday, and we'll see how that goes. Nebraska basketball now 18-0 22 straight wins, 8th in the country, probably be maybe 6th tomorrow.
I would say probably 7th.
6th or 7th.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa State did lose twice, though.
I mean, it feels like a dream, but if it is, please don't wake me up.
No,
ever.
Not allowed.
Because I just wanted to keep going. It's like somebody wakes you up from a dream that's just going really, really well, and you're just mad. So nobody wake us up. It could continue. I think it's going to be 20-0 for Nebraska basketball, and then they travel to Michigan in 2 games. You got Washington on Wednesday, then Minnesota, then Michigan. But we'll see where this ride goes. Let's get the break, come back with more. Jessica Coody of the Husker Sports Network. We'll talk a little Husker football and basketball.
Do you know where kids can learn to shoot a basketball or play an instrument?
Sports with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens.
They've done studies, 60% of the time it works every time.
Husker Rewind on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back. Tom Stevens, Mike Melby. Nebraska coming off a big win at Northwestern, 77-58. 22nd straight win, longest in college basketball. They're 8th today. We'll see where they are when the new poll comes out tomorrow. So we welcome in Jessica Coody of the Husker Sports Network on the Summit Lawns Talk and Text line. Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Oh, good.
We're happy talking about Husker basketball. I'm sure you're one of those that bet they'd be 18-0. You went to Vegas and placed a bet at the start of the season, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's just so easy to do that and such a no-brainer. No, it's impressive. I don't think think we're kind of to the point now that this team is proven that we just personally, and I think a lot of people, that even though it's so hard to do what they're doing, you just believe that they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep winning. And it's certainly not easy, but it just goes to, speak to the maturity of this group, that they're not taking anybody lightly. I mean, their slogan is fear none, respect all. And so even when they're favored, they're going out there. It's just a lot of teams, even if you are to the point where you're in this spot, you could have a slip up, but they just, they continue to roll and find ways to win, whether it's, they're on fire from the outside or they're having to just battle out a defensive grinder. It's just, group is on a mission, and they've been so good about not getting too caught up in everything else. It's one game at a time, and they continue to just, find ways to put up these kinds of performances together. It's impressive. There's no doubt.
Jessica Coody from the Husker Sports Network joining us on the Summit Lawns Talk and Text line. Jessica, along with this run has come some national attention, and most of it has been, this is the best story in college basketball. And a little bit of it has been, they're a farce. It's all pure luck. They're fake. They're a fraud. It's been nice to see
that can't last much longer.
It's been nice to see that the majority of it is that this is the best story in college basketball. From what you do day in and day out working for the University of Nebraska, one, how fun has it been to get some of the requests that I'm sure you're maybe getting from national people about the story of Nebraska basketball? And have you fielded any kind of oddball things that might be kind of funny, maybe on the negative side?
No, if people are calling it at this point, if you're calling it fake or fraud or whatever, you haven't actually watched. You're actually not tuning in, because it's certainly not. And they've done it against teams they're not supposed to do it against, and they're handling business against the teams that they're supposed to be winning. So no, I mean, I think that it's just been fun to follow how excited people are. I know it's been said a million times, but what world are we in that Indiana football is playing for a national title and Nebraska basketball is ranked in the top 10 unbeaten at 18-0? So I think it's just, but I can tell you that going back to the summer, I have, obviously worked with this team and covered this team year round, and going back to the summer when we were doing some newcomer interviews, and, we do check-ins with Coach Hoiberg, and I just, first of all, I've had the utmost respect for Coach Hoiberg going back to when I was at Oklahoma and he was at Iowa State. He's a heck of a coach, but you just could get a sense, and he's not one that gets too high or too low, but you got a sense that he really liked this group even back in the summer, and that, he knew he probably had the makings of now I don't even know if he would say 18-0 type of special, but you could just tell he had a group that he's really, really excited about. And, it's just, they're old, which is just so important in college basketball. They're an older group. They just have they're so unselfish, which is, I think, that's the best part about this team. And it's all kind of coming together perfectly. And then, hey, the more you win, the more you kind of build that confidence. It just continues to grow and build, and it just, adds to feeds the monster, I guess. Yeah. But I don't know if I've seen any crazy things or had any crazy requests, because I do think, fortunately now, if you're 18-0, it's kind of hard to call it a fluke. You might call it a 10-0 or whatever, 11-0 before you start getting into, but when you start beating teams like Michigan State, coming back from down 16 on the road at Indiana, it's hard to call it a fluke.
No, they're obviously playing great basketball, among the best in the country. Maybe you can make that case a little bit last year when Nebraska was playing well at times and Bryce Williams was getting 25 to sometimes 35 every game, and you didn't think that necessarily could keep up. But you had Rink Mask score 5 against Oregon and play 17 minutes. You had him score 9 yesterday and play only 20 minutes. They're doing it with a different guy every single night. I mean, you have Jamarcus Lawrence go off one night. You have Sam Hoiberg get 12 yesterday. Obviously, Sanford's been a steady, but Frager's coming on. They have so many weapons, and I don't know if I would have thought that at the start of the year.
Yeah, I think maybe just in terms of the depth, in terms of the scoring, because you still kind of hold your breath a little bit about if they're playing a bunch of minutes. So it's just, I go back to this team was about to play Creighton, is before Jared Garcia really got going, and you're just a little bit concerned that maybe they're only seven, 8 deep, but they have just done such a good job of sharing the wealth. And yeah, it's somebody different every night, and they're okay with that. And I think that's another speaks to the volume of just the build and the makeup of this team. You got some guys that have been around and understand. It's funny. I had a conversation with Charlie Hoiberg, who's Sam's twin. I
heard that. That was good stuff.
Obviously followed the program, but he brought up, starting to feel the tide turn with Sam Griesel and that group. And while that team didn't make the tournament, you could just some of the marks that team that they left and what was starting to work in the locker room and the chemistry. And I think you got some guys that were a part of that are trying to think maybe continue to instill that. And Sam Hoiberg is one of those, but they're so unselfish. And I mean, I've said this a bunch, and I've been asked a lot about this team here recently, but my absolute favorite thing about this team is if you watch closely, you can see when they realize who has the hot hand, and then they are very, very convicted about making sure that person gets the shots. Like when Price Samford in that first half against Oregon, you could see, and they're like, let's keep feeding him the ball. And then it was Braden Frager in the second half. I mean, they just do such a good job of recognizing who it is that has the hot hand, and they're okay with, and they make the extra pass. It's boy, if you like just the pure basketball of the unselfishness, it's just, this team has it, and they just, they share it. They don't care who's scoring. As long as whoever is scoring is helping them win, that's all they care about. And that's, I think, ultimately what is the most important about this group is that they just want to win. They don't care how they win. They just want to win. And so, and then obviously you can't not praise enough what they've done on the defensive end as well. But certainly, yeah, they've got a lot of different guys that can score, and it's been that you rotate from game to game. It's very rarely is it back-to-back games where it's like the same guy. They spread it around, and whoever needs to step up and deliver, they do. And I think that's another thing that's really fun about this group.
Jessica, I want to piggyback a little bit on something that you said about sharing the ball. And I think the stat going into yesterday was 4 out of the last 5 games, Nebraska's had a different leading scorer. And of course, Price led both of these last 2 games. So 4 out of their last 6. But when they find the hot hand, they don't care who the hot hand is, because Cale Jacobson has gone on scoring runs of, I want to say 7 points, at least 5 and definitely 7 in the last 2 games, where he all of a sudden is the focal point of the offense because he nailed a 3 or because he just made a brilliant cut, and they start running action for him, and everybody's all excited. Like it's so refreshing to see that in the world of NIL, fish lip selfies, and everything else that you see from college athletes these days.
Yeah, no, they're unselfish. They very much are. And it goes back, I think, a little bit to just the maturity of the group and just understanding what it takes to win, and that's part of it. But also, I think they are very strategic about some of the things that they do in the off season to build the chemistry and the trust and the bonds. And I mean, I was joking with Coach Hoiberg when I did the TV show with him. You would think Sam Hoiberg and Price Samford have played together for 10 years, just the way, and Price told me that. Price said, the way that Sam not only finds him, but he also how the spin that he puts on it. I mean, he gets Samford, and Samford's got a quick release, but he gets it to him like right there in the pocket, and also the laces, like on the laces. So it just, and I think, there's a lot of that going on that they just are there. I think there's a lot of guys that probably like making a great pass as much as they do like making the big bucket. And I think it all has proven to show. And the more that you do it, the more that it builds. And I think that they just are kind of all clicking right now and understand kind of what works best for them. And it certainly starts, I think, on what they do on the defensive end and how connected they are on the defensive end. That was one thing that Coach Hoiberg also said from the beginning is, listen, we're not the most athletic group, so we're going to have to be very, very good on the defensive end of the things that we do. And so I asked Price that too, and like, why does this defense work? And he said, because we play as one. And so I think as much as we want to talk about how connected they are on the offensive end. I think it's the same thing on the defensive end. They're connected. They're unselfish. It's however many ways you want to say it, but yeah, they share the basketball and they play really well together. And I think the more you win, the easier it is to do all of that and continue to feed into that.
Yeah, they are so connected and a fun team to watch. And we hope the story never ends. Maybe it'll be a 1 seed, and who knows where that could lead for Nebraska basketball. I do want to switch gears a little bit here and talk about Nebraska football. The portal has opened and now has closed. Nebraska got a quarterback out of it. They got some offensive linemen. How would you grade Nebraska's effort in the portal?
Yeah, and it's not done. I mean, even though it closed, they had some visits this weekend, and some of the teams that are playing the national championship, those guys still have time in the portal. So it's certainly like not done yet. I don't think. I think there could be maybe an addition or two that happened. But yeah, I think got much better on the offensive line in terms of just the experience and depth and getting some guys that have played some snaps and some football at some big time places. And so you improved there, which they needed. I think going to the defensive line too, that was also a big emphasis. And I don't think that that's done yet. I think there very well might be another addition there. But I know with the news, the JUCO kid maybe changing his commitment, we'll see there. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the day and age that we're in.
Yes.
But yeah, you feel really good about the quarterback. I love. I've told Kyle this. Kyle Crooks was not here with Danny Kaelin, but I'm a huge fan of Danny Kaelin, and just, him coming back home. He was a great guy to work with, and obviously loves this place. You could tell he's one of those guys that is loved in the locker room. And so you have some depth there in the quarterback room, which you have to have. I think, Kyle did an interview with Coach Rule last Friday, and I thought it was pretty interesting. He had made he kind of phrased the question of, when TJ finds out on social media about what's going on in the quarterback room, he goes, "Let me stop you there. TJ did not find out on social media. TJ knew every step we were making in terms of the quarterback move." And so the quarterback storyline unfolded early on in this portal window, and with the Minchie kind of situation, and then coming in and making the moves that they did, and how quickly they moved in the quarterback moves, and the fact that TJ Lateef knew what was coming and still did not himself go into the portal, I think speaks volumes. They had a lot of guys that, yeah, you have your Dylan, you have Keona Davis, you had some guys, but for the most part, to me, that's, I think, even more impressive than what they brought in were the guys that they were able to retain, because they are really, really excited. It was a young group last year, and I know people don't want to hear that excuse, but especially on the defensive line. And so you've got to give some of those guys some time to develop, because they do have some really good young talent. But the fact that you were not flooded, because everywhere else basically in the country, that they saw their portal, the guys just on a mass exodus, and it wasn't the case with Nebraska. So the way they were able to retain some of the young talent, and yes, you had some good pieces. I do like what they did in the quarterback room, but allowing for some competition to happen, but also some depth you have to have. And, certainly with the offensive line, and also I think it has to be remiss not to point out the linebacker situation too, because I think that was an area of need. And so I think they got some really good linebackers too. But overall, yeah, I think they did a really good job, and got some necessary pieces that when they went into it, hey, this is what we got to have. And like I said, I still think we might be talking about a couple more additions here coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Jessica, I heard the interview with Kyle and Coach Rule, and he mentioned the running back room and how there were not going to be any additions. They like the room the way it is. One of the speculations this entire offseason since the bowl game is that Marty Brown from Miami, once their season is over, may go to the portal, and Nebraska may be able to afford him this time. Do you think there's any chance that might still happen?
Yeah, I don't know. And that's not kind of what I do. And I just kind of follow along as it goes. But, other people would be more versed to talk about that. I know that Brown, when he came here, obviously, I think he had a hard time telling Nebraska no. And the last time, but I do, whether it happens or not, they do like the room, and they they said it over and over again, and I think people probably are panicking a little bit because it's just they haven't seen it as much, but they liked the guys that they had in that room. You just had somebody doing something really special in Emmett Johnson. So at the season that he had, you just kind of had to keep feeding the hot hand. But I know they like the guys that they have. They like, with Makai Nelson, Isaiah Mosey, but then Jamal Roll. You just got some guys in there that I think they're ready for their opportunity, and they like. If that happens, I'm sure, if they can make it work, but it's all kind of a lot of puzzle pieces that they're still trying to work out and fix. I don't have any connections to the Brown camp to tell you one way or another. I who knows? I can tell you they're very confident in that running back room, but if it presented itself and it worked out, then I'm not saying that Nebraska would say no. I just, I'm not one that's privy to any of that information and can't really comment on that one way or another, other than I know that they like the guys that they already have.
Yep.
That's not saying that they're not going to add it if they could, but I just know that they're very confident in the group that they have.
Well, that's something that Matt Rule's been saying a long time, and that he likes his running back room. Obviously, it included Emmett before, but they did well in the bowl game, so maybe they just stand pat and move on to other positions. Love having you on. Thank you so much, Jessica. Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Take care. Jessica Coody. The guy I really like, as you mentioned, the quarterback room, Danny Kalin has returned, went to Virginia. But the big move, I think, was getting Anthony Calandria. Sorry. I think he's an upgrade over Dylan Raiola. I know people are going to listen to that and go, you're nuts. That was a 5-star quarterback. And the reason I say that is he has a wealth of college experience. Not that Dylan didn't, but Dylan is going to sit out this year. He's going to redshirt. Calandria has played a lot of football, threw for 3,400 yards, 23 TDs.
I can assure you he will never get sacked 9 times.
That's right. He can run around. That's, I think, something Nebraska definitely needs. Let's get to break. Come back with more after this.
Deciding on a college with your high school senior can be a little overwhelming for parents. But applying for money to pay
Melby.
It is cold. The winter has gone south. I mean, the weather has gone south, or whatever it is. It's cold enough to make a brass monkey clink, I'll tell you that.
On Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Frager pump fake, jab step, no shot, shoots a pass to Sam, 8 on the clock. Sam puts it on the floor, drives the alley, the kick to Jacobson, drives the baseline, kicks it out. Sanford with 2 on the clock. Got it! Holy smokes! Such beautiful basketball on the half court by Nebraska. Just a thing of beauty.
It is a thing of beauty. It is a beautiful 18-0. Currently ranked 8th, probably 7th. I think Iowa State's 2 losses this week will drop them from 2 to roughly 8. They may stay ahead of Nebraska. I don't think it's any argument. Right now, I think the top 10 teams are the top 10 teams.
Mike DeCourcy has Nebraska as a 1 seed.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that I would ever say that in my lifetime. Nebraska was a 3 seed in 90-91. That's the best basketball team I have ever seen. I guess there was one in 65, 66. Of course, Nebraska chasing them. They were ranked 8th in the country, a Joe Cipriano team. I saw the stat, Mike, during the game, and I didn't know this. Nebraska has spent 9 weeks in the top 10, in the top 20 this year. They spent a total of 8 weeks for the previous 30 years.
It's the number of games they played as a ranked team.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Not the number of weeks they're ranked, but they've played now 9 games as a ranked team this year. And in the last 30 years, they played a grand total of 8.
8.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did I say that wrong?
Well, you said that weeks that they'd been ranked, but it's actually
weeks.
games they played.
Games that they had played.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But that's incredible to me.
The funny thing is, when they showed it, I had no idea. And I went,
because I would have
it's been a rough 30 years.
But I would have thought that 90-91, of course, that was previous to the 30 years.
Yeah.
That was previous.
Yeah, this is basically 95-96.
Yeah, this is 95-96. Okay.
You had
those were good teams.
You had
Teron Lou was on some of those teams, and Eric Strickland.
Yeah, you had a Big 12 tournament champion team in there.
Yeah.
So
Big 12 player of the year. So, it's amazing what they're accomplishing this year, and it's so much fun to watch. Let's get to the Blitz, shall we?
We shall.
The Big Ten Blitz. The Big Ten Blitz. The Big Ten Blitz. The Big Ten Blitz.
Now, I'm going to jump in here because you and I talked about this. The way that we've done the Big Ten Blitz, even with basketball in prior years, is we kind of go over some of the bigger games and highlight all that type of stuff.
Fun.
And it's
more fun when it's fun in football when you have all the games on a Saturday.
Yeah.
But the games are so spread out with 18 teams, it's just kind of tough to do.
So we decided Big Ten Blitz for basketball this year. What we're going to do is we're basically going to focus on the Big Ten and how they are looking overall. We'll rank the teams, which is part of what we did before, but we're going to be talking about the Big Ten and who's going to the dance, like who's on the bubble, who's in, who's out. There is a Twitter account out there, T3 Bracketology. Encourage people to follow it. It's excellent. And they are a credentialed media member. They're awesome. And they have their birth watch. They tweeted it out earlier today. There are 18 teams in the Big Ten locked, guaranteed to go to the NCAA tournament, according to these guys. There's one team.
Really?
Nebraska.
Not Michigan?
Nope.
That's crazy.
They have
Not
Illinois, Purdue, Michigan State, all as high odds. So you go locks, high odds, good shape, bubble in, bubble out, almost a flat bubble, and low odds, also known as Northwestern.
You only had one game in the Big Ten today. Maryland drilled Penn State 96-73. Neither of those teams obviously are going to the NCAA tournament this year. Michigan State over Washington yesterday, 80-63. Purdue in a close one over USC. USC is a solid team, not ranked, but Purdue, number 5 in the country. I think their one losses to Iowa State this year, but they did lose at home. 69-64, they beat USC. Michigan beats Oregon by 10 on the road yesterday, 81-71. Iowa is a sneaky good basketball team.
Yeah.
That's one of those teams that I know they're not ranked, but they'll be in the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. 74-57 at Indiana. That's an impressive win. Wisconsin has suddenly caught fire. Of course, they have the big win. Nebraska blew them out by 30 at home. And then they went to Michigan and won last week. So that's a great win for Wisconsin. They're suddenly playing really good basketball. They can score, and they did it against Rutgers, 96-87. Ohio State, excellent defensive team. They win at home over UCLA on Saturday, 86-74. Illinois is really good. The team they beat scares me, Minnesota. Nebraska has to go to Minnesota later in the week, but Illinois handles them at home, 77-67. Nebraska, of course, that's probably their best win is Illinois on the road. I think it's even better than Michigan State at home.
I would agree just because of the circumstances playing on the road. So from the standpoint of the Big Ten itself, let's go through and kind of rank the teams. Let's do, I think you've got a top tier, and I don't know that you say they're all interchangeable. I'm going to throw out Michigan over Purdue just because of their size, and Purdue over Nebraska simply because of the history. And I'm not that guy saying Nebraska doesn't deserve credit because of their history. I'm just saying that right now Purdue's more seasoned at being the hunted. And so
they have the reigning Big Ten Player of the Year.
Yeah,
Braden Smith.
Yeah,
I mean, they're really a solid team. Obviously, they don't have a Zach Edey, but they have a 7'2" kid that Danielson could really play.
Yeah. So what do you have your top three ranked?
I agree with you. I have Michigan number 1, Purdue number 2, Nebraska number 3.
Is Michigan State and Illinois, are they in the conversation of could they be the top team in the Big Ten?
Yes, easily.
Okay. So we'll make that top group the top 5.
They have a Hall of Fame coach, and they're loaded with talent. They probably have the best point guard in the league. There's probably the most athletically gifted team in the league, and they're the best defensive team in my mind in the league. Even with Nebraska, Nebraska team defense, sure. I would put. I know they're a little farther down, but I put Ohio State in the conversation of the top 7.
Top 7, yeah. I would say Michigan State and Illinois to me are kind of tied for 4th. If you want to rank the teams today. And so then you skip 5, obviously, because you got 2 at 4. Is number 5 then Ohio State, or with the win over Michigan, is it Wisconsin?
I'm still not Wisconsin's a really talented offensive team. And when they shoot it well, they can beat anybody in the country. They don't always shoot it well.
Yeah.
They didn't shoot it well against a really good defensive team. When they play great defensive teams, and I think Michigan is that. I think Michigan was a little bored. Michigan was beating everybody in the country by 40 points.
Yeah.
And then they kind of had a night where they didn't play well, and they beat Penn State by like 7. And then they lost at home because they were still sleepy to Wisconsin.
Well, and that's the whole thing. What have you heard in the cinematic recaps from Coach Hoiberg? Not only are you satisfied and everybody says no, but you hear him in the postgame and you hear him in the locker room with some of those cinematic recaps of, hey, don't get fat and happy. And it feels a little bit like Michigan got a little fat and happy, and they're way too talented.
That would drive me a little crazy as an 18 or 19-year-old because, I know there's the 24-hour rule, but it feels like with Hoiberg, there's a 3-minute rule.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we won. That's great. We have moved on already.
Well, that was the whole thing. The talk in the locker room was more about Washington. You know, I mean, they're getting on the plane and they're more worried about Washington than they are at all about anything that just happened.
How many times have you heard Hoiberg say after a win, if we start believing we're the best team of the country or the best team of this league, we're in real danger.
Yeah.
Because he's seen it from so many teams.
Yeah.
Don't get too high after a win. Don't get too low after a loss. And I think this is a mature team. It's what, again, I like the Indiana comparison. In fact, we've compared Indiana basketball to Nebraska football. I don't think we've ever compared Indiana football to Nebraska basketball.
Yeah.
But that's the
because Nebraska basketball's never been good.
We've always
Indiana football's never been good.
But they've been right. But we've always compared them to basketball because they were good a long time ago and they won 3 national titles, but they haven't been good for a long time. Kind of similar to Nebraska football, kind of living in the past. It's crazy that now we're comparing them, Nebraska basketball to Indiana football.
All right, so let's do this. We've kind of ranked the top essentially 8, 9, 10 teams. Who do you think is in the tournament? I'm going to tell you. You tell me the team. I'm going to tell you what Birth Watch is saying, what TM3 or T3 bracketology is saying about it. I already led with the ending there. Nebraska is the lock in the Big Ten currently.
Mm-hmm.
So throw out. We'll go Michigan. You say they're a lock.
They're a lock.
Okay.
Purdue's a lock.
Okay.
Michigan State's a lock.
Okay.
Illinois is a lock.
I kind of agree with you, and I think all 5 teams should be over in that lock, but they're not right now. In good shape.
That I really, really like that's a little farther down is Iowa. They've had some, they're 13-5. Ohio State, UCLA, USC, those are bubble teams. Iowa probably is a bubble team. Indiana's probably a bubble team. And then right now, Washington is out. Rutgers is out. They'd have to play their way in. Oregon is obviously out. Those types of teams. Maryland is out. I don't know how many teams that is. 2, 4, 6, 8. You're probably talking about 10 teams that will get in the tournament.
So as of right now, according to again, T3 bracketology, Nebraska's in. Illinois, Michigan, Purdue, Michigan State have high odds. I think everybody can agree they're all locks to be in the tournament. In good shape right now, despite a 30-point loss at Nebraska, with the big win over Michigan, they have Wisconsin as in good shape, more than likely an 8 or a 9 seed. And then bubble in, 8, 9 seed, Iowa, USC, Ohio State. Currently bubble out, Indiana, UCLA. Bubbles are almost flat with Washington and Minnesota. So that would put a grand total of 5, 6, 9 teams currently bubble in or better. So I think the Big Ten gets 10.
And that makes sense. Somebody's going to go on a run.
Yeah.
At some point. A team that really scares me, and not Washington at home. I think Nebraska, even though they haven't always played well at home, sometimes they play better on the road than they do at home. It's that Minnesota game on the 24th that scares me. 11 a.m. Are you sleepy? Nebraska sometimes struggles at Minnesota. We'll see how that goes, but I think a real chance to go to 20-0 before they play Michigan. Hour number 2 is on the way.
Remember Nebraska's national titles.
Oh, they don't have them yet.
Look at Tommy Frazier. How many tackles can one man break? Touchdown.
Yet young enough to remember what they had for lunch.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf!
On Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back. Hour number 2. Big thanks in hour number 1 to Jessica Coody. Yet to come, Andy Markowski, 2-time Husker basketball captain, later on this hour. Nebraska, 18-0 in basketball, 7-0 in the league, 22 straight. Ranked 8th for the first time since the 60s. Have a chance to maybe surpass that if they're ranked even higher tomorrow. It feels like I'm living in a dream, and I think I said out loud, hey, Mike DeCourcy has this as a 1 seed, and my wife Heidi says, don't say it. I mean, she thinks there's a jinx if you say it out loud. Do you feel that way as a longtime Husker fan, that you don't want people to say too many good things, Jack?
It's not only that I don't want people not like it's. I get uncomfortable when people say good things like what Mike DeCourcy said after the game last night. It's like I feel like I have to tame my mind when I start thinking forward with the implications of like what could that be happening in 2 weeks, let alone what could be happening in 1 month or 8 weeks from right now. Like I don't even want to let my, I don't know why, but I don't even want to let my mind like contemplate those things. I think in part because I think like smoke will start coming out of my ears.
Right.
And I'll have kind of some kind of an error. You have to reboot me. But no, I completely understand why she said that. I think that is very common of a lot of Nebraska basketball fans right now, which is very funny because I think the assumption of the college basketball world, and I think particularly Big Ten fans, is like, oh, here come overconfident Nebraska basketball fans. They're new money. They're going to be annoying. They need to be put in their place. And if they're saying that, they just don't get this culture.
Jack, I want to reference your tweets from earlier today. Big Ten fans quote, and then Nebraska basketball fans response. And it is absolutely brilliant. You should win a Pulitzer.
Did they award those for tweets? I think they
should.
The tweet.
Jack, if you want to read the entire the posts in entirety, I do not have a problem with it because you literally, that's me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The exact same feeling.
The tweeties. I like that. And the tweety goes to Jack Mitchell.
No, well, they have like short film in the Oscars,
Yeah.
don't they?
Yeah.
This is kind of like the short film of the Pulitzer. Okay, so I pulled it up. Since I'm on headphones, I can do that. All right. So my tweet was, and by the way, this was after getting just one single reply on some tweet I had, some Purdue fan who had 37 followers. But I just knew it was going to be endemic of what the next few weeks were going to be like. And he basically, he had tweeted some like Yoda gif of like, soon you will know, or something like that. Basically insinuating, at least I interpreted it this way, that like, hey, the end of what this is coming. So that inspired me to write the following tweet, which is, it's long because I have the premium account and I can tweet longer. You're welcome, Elon. Enjoy my money. All right. So the tweet is, Big Ten fan. This is what the Big Ten fan is. It's like a script. Big Ten fan. Hey, Nebraska ball fan, don't get too big for your britches. Reality's going to be setting in soon. You better enjoy this while you can. Nebraska ball fan. This is a line from Nebraska ball fan. I am legitimately savoring every minute like I know I'm going to die tomorrow. I'm irrationally terrified anything I do is going to somehow end in it. Thanks for the advice on not being too optimistic. You're a second grade teacher's assistant in the subject of curbing expectations. I have 39 PhDs. In fact, why don't you come on a tour with me into my blackened, rotting soul, and perhaps you can learn something about the impact and nuance that goes along with chronic, incurable, involuntary fatalism. But yeah, great season so far. Hope we can keep up with you guys.
That is good stuff. You know, usually I watch Nebraska basketball games and they're up 10, they're up 15, and I just wait for the floor to drop, that everything's going to cave in. But this is one of those, they could be down 10, and I'm not nervous for some reason this year. Not like I usually am. I still throw things, and I've broken a few TVs and thrown a few remotes. But as my wife, comparatively, I've been really calm, and it's because I just think something good is always coming with this team. And maybe the other shoe will drop, but it doesn't feel like it will anytime soon.
So I would not say I'm quite there yet. Evidence of that at the Indiana game when Nebraska was down. Were they down 10 at half? 9? I can't remember. 11.
9.
They're down at half. 9. I basically was going through the stages of like grief. I was at like the bargaining level of. So I was saying, this is a conversation in my head. I was like, this is probably better. This is probably what they needed.
Yeah.
To really get, and it'll kind of get them out of the national headlines. That's a lot. And it's not really going to impact the ultimate goal, which is winning an NCAA tournament game. So it's probably better. And I did that because I did not expect, and I don't know if you expected them to come back from that one.
I didn't.
But I did.
Not on the road.
No, not on that. And just the way that the front half of that game had gone. So I did not expect that. So I did not kind of have the, hey, things will get better attitude in that one. And then I sat there and just watched while over a, I don't know, over a 240-second period, Nebraska erased the entire.
Yeah, you had a great stat on your show about kill shots. I think Caleb came up with it. And I didn't realize Nebraska's second to Michigan in the country in kill shots. And Mike had mentioned it earlier in the show. They have 23 runs of 23 10-0 runs or more so far this season.
I didn't know that stat. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that was and we talked about this before the game. Let me mention this, and then Mike, I'm sorry, I'm taking over, but because we were talking about the best player versus the most important player on this team. Is it the same guy for you?
Ooh, the best player. I don't know. It is so hard with this team because if you had asked me that question a month ago, I would have said the best and the most important player is Rank Matt, I think.
Yes.
Now I think I still think he is probably the most important player. Like if you took one guy off the team, that would change the most, even though the last 2 games he's not been, he was able to basically rest in the second half. I still think he's the most important player, but now I think both Price and Frager have entered the conversation on this, to be honest. And I think Sam is in the conversation for, that's the thing with this team. But like most teams, you ought to be able to do that fairly easily. And here I am. I've named, a third of the entire roster in the 8 seconds since you've asked me this question.
Yeah.
Okay, Jack. With you and Tom, you guys were talking about how you both kind of felt the inevitability of the loss coming at Indiana. I'm going to read to you a tweet I sent Tom at halftime. We just got to get Rankin Price going, hit 10 threes in the second half, and we're going to win this thing going away.
Almost. Rank, I think, hit 1, but you were close.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, I was like, I think we can come back. I don't know why, but I thought we could come back. And yesterday, no matter how close Northwestern was, I'm like, this is kind of fun. It's like watching the cat play with the mouse here. It's literally playing with its food.
Well, I will say this about yesterday. I felt very different at halftime because Nebraska was ahead, but I did not think they had, I would say, without looking at a scoreboard, I was disappointed with that half in a lot of ways. But I saw that Nebraska wasn't shooting well. And the real kryptonite for this team, they're not as 3-point dependent as people like to think they are. At least super high gaudy percentage 3-point dependent. But when they can't make anything from three, well, that's happened a few times. And most notably, I think like in some of those bye games against New Hampshire, USC Upstate, to a degree, North Carolina, like that's the thing that kind of dooms them. But, they usually get out. It usually doesn't last a whole game. And that's kind of what happened with Northwestern.
Yeah.
So, I thought that actually boded well, the fact they were ahead, because I knew they would shoot it at least a little better, and sure enough, they did in the second half in that game. So, I don't know what else, because anything, I don't know what other kryptonite there is for them, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess that's why I'm not. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be worried when they go to Michigan, and maybe a little worried when they go to Minnesota. I'm not worried about Wednesday night. I think they'll win that game going away, but we'll see. Jack Mitchell, host of Jack and Friends and the I-80 podcast, watched it today. Really, really, really good stuff. I guess if there is a concern of mine, it's the shortening of the bench. Garcia didn't play very many minutes. I think he came in at the very end. And they basically played 7 players. They didn't have to play Rink. In fact, he's had 37 minutes the last 2 games, and they won easily. But are you a little worried about the declining bench?
I don't know. And Fred might have said something about this, and I might not have heard it yesterday about what the deal with Garcia was. But that was odd to me, because since at the beginning of the year he was playing pretty sparingly, but he's gotten into a pretty consistent rotation, and so I don't know what the deal with that was. I assume it's either matchup based or he wasn't feeling good. I don't know, but no, I'm not. I mean, I think. Listen, I was happy Rink was on the bench most of the second half. Like that guy. I mean, given all of the circumstances, and I don't know if you guys are like me, but I'm like always watching plays where there's any kind of action around his knees. And like, oh god. And it does. I think there have been games where it looks like by the end he's pretty fatigued. Now, the benefit, like Ohio State is a great example. I thought he was fatigued at the end of the game. Now, the good thing is Bryce and especially Frager seem to get less fatigued as the game goes on in a weird way. And they've kind of been the closers, especially Frager, for this team. So, no, I'm not. Unless there's an injury or something wrong with any of those guys, which I don't know that there is. I don't think that there is. That's not a concern. And it didn't, even though Garcia didn't play, it's not like you watch that Northwestern game and we're like, wow, they really should have gotten some more minutes.
Yeah.
I want and expect him to be a part of the rotation. Go back and think of that Illinois game, guys. Like Garcia was a huge cog in that game.
Yes.
To winning that game. And he will be again, I think.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to shut down Oogie for the season. That's the only season-ending injury, and Garcia's had an injury history. Oogie, I think, will be helpful next year. I think he's a guy who can really shoot. It's too bad he can't play on this team, because I think he would add something that some of the other bigs don't. But you don't mess with a bad back, I guess.
No, yeah, I like 2 weeks ago, I kept saying, "Oh man, wait till they add him. Wait till they add him." But now they've gone far enough that I wouldn't. I mean, they're 18-0. Like I'm not.
Yes.
I wouldn't screw with anything, and there's a benefit to it because you're going to lose a lot next year, and you're going to add. I don't know. If you only have 1 year.
He has 1 year. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, man, they need him more. I mean, I'll tell you right now, they need him more next year than they do this year, given their unbeaten record and number 8 ranking in the country. And I'll say it as much as I can. So, I'm sure would there have been situations where that would have been nice, but there's no doubt that he is going to have way more of an impact on this program next year. And in a weird way, the Ephesian thing, for as much as it sucked at the time, like that, both of those situations are going to, I think, long term, assuming Ephesian's able to play next year and stays around, that is long term going to be the best thing for the program, because you will lose so much going into next year. But to have a couple more guys that have been through the process of this year, even if they were hurt, I think that'll be huge. That'll be huge for the whole thing, especially using Rank and Sam.
So you've got Ephesian back, Oogie back, and providing everybody stays, everybody's healthy, and they can all play.
Frager and Sanford are going to be expensive.
Frager, Sanford, Oogie, Connor Segan, and don't forget Cale Jacobson.
Yeah,
Jack. I'm just saying, you're talking about a guy from Ashland Greenwood that was a walk-on that goes out there and is plus 19 in games. The other thing about him, and I want to know, Jack, if you have noticed this, because I pointed it out to Tom earlier. I believe in the last 3 games, there has been an altercation between a Nebraska player and an opponent that it was a little like there was almost a fist thrown. And every single time Cale Jacobson is the Nebraska player, he plays with an
I
edge.
thought he and Enright were going to get into it.
And I love it. Have you noticed that as well, or is it just me?
Yeah, 100%. He has turned into Dark Cale just a little bit. I saw. I mean, that whole. If you can go back to the Indiana game and watch the replay. They went to a timeout and they had the whole footage of him and Enright. I call him Timu Larry Bird. And the little exchange they had. It's like an 8-second TikTok video, but every minute of it is just cinematic gold.
Yeah.
Because he tried to get the ball from him.
Yes.
And then Cale pulled it away. Cale was very proud, and he kind of gave him sort of like a sly, I'm not too fired up smile. And that guy was, and it was just such a, I don't know if he's trying to provoke or what it is, but it was just such a good allegory for Nebraska basketball, because Nebraska basketball, they do not use emotion. They do not need emotion as fuel. Other teams do, which is great, but it is kind of a limited resource for a whole lot of other teams.
Well, they follow their coach in a lot of ways, and I don't think most Hoiberg teams have been like him, but this seems like a team that emotionally is more like Fred.
Well, and go ahead, Jack.
I call Sam and Rink and Jamarcus the dads, because I feel like, what other team has two guys, Rink and Jamarcus Lawrence, after they get an unquestionably huge win in what some people are calling the biggest game in Pinnacle Bank Arena? They're like, "Hey, can we not storm the court?" Okay, Dad. which I mean, fine. And if they don't want the storm the court, they won't. But
it did feel like that. It felt like, okay, this one time, you can do it this one time, and then that's it. That's it. No more.
I mean, those 3 guys in particular, Sam, Jamarcus, and Rank, they're the dads. And like that, it's pretty funny, but it just, Fred has a tendency to recruit guys who just tend to have kind of low emotional blood pressure. I don't know if that's really a term, but I just made it up. But that's, there are a few, but he always finds a couple of guys who are the exceptions. A.K. Silvernaga, obviously.
Cam Mack.
Braden Frager. Yeah. But especially in this most recent one, you remember Bryce Williams? Sometimes I was like, Bryce, dude, have some emotion.
Right. Yeah.
So the one guy on the team that I think shows the most emotion on the court, and it only happens when he gets smacked in the face, is the crazy uncle of the family, Berkay Buchanan.
Yeah. He's the crazy uncle.
Berkay and Frager, and now maybe Cale are a little bit of a counterbalance, but those other 3 guys, those 3 old guys, those seniors, because the other ones are all going to be back. Frager, they'll be eligible to be back. But the dads, they're the seniors.
Yep.
They're the seniors, and I think it's, in some ways, it's what's genius about Fred Hoiberg's team. You can have Indiana goes on that run. It was emotionally fueled. They were pumped up, but Nebraska does not need emotional fuel. They run on, they're an electric car compared to the gas car or something. I don't know. I don't know about that analogy. I think I tried to make it the other night. Still doesn't work.
We'll work on it for the next podcast. Good stuff, as always. We appreciate the time, Jack. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, it was fun. I could talk about Nebraska basketball. We're unbeaten number 8 for hours.
Well, we will.
Same here.
We will for the rest of the year, for sure. Just don't wake us up. We don't want to be woken up at any point.
I won't.
Okay.
I won't. Have a good one, guys. Thanks
there you
for
go.
having me.
Thanks, Jack.
Jack Mitchell, host of Jack and Friends, right here on 1400 KLIN. And check out his I-80 podcast. It's very good stuff. I really enjoy it. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he should be. He was a two-time captain for Danny Nee in the mid-'90s, and he is really good at talking hoops. Andy Markowski will do it with him coming up next.
Recap of Husker sports.
Jones runs behind a blocker, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 15. He's gone. Touchdown. Touchdown. Touchdown.
Husker Rewind with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Nebraska comes the other way, ahead by 6 points, 38-32. They can take their biggest lead of the game, but they score here. Here is Hoiberg, bounce pass, block extended, back to Hoiberg, 3-ball. Got it! Sammy, my boy! And the Huskers are up, biggest lead of the game, 9 points, 41-32. Sam's 14th three of the year, and a timeout on the floor.
So I have to ask, welcome back to Husker Rewind, if two-time Nebraska basketball captain Andy Markowski ever had Kent Pavelka scream, "Andy, my boy," during a broadcast.
Well, we had a good run of about 8 years, and he might have said it, but he's having the most fun that and he's deserved it. He's sat through a lot of lean years of Nebraska men's basketball, so it's fun to listen to him, and the passion and excitement he has still has been fun to follow this year.
It's one of those teams that's fun, and when you think of Fred Hoiberg, at least me, I think of great offense, and I thought that's what we were going to get most of the Fred Hoiberg era from Iowa State. But it's the defense that's been so good. Have you been more impressed with Nebraska's defense or offense so far this year?
Well, the defense has really been consistent for about 3 years. Nate Linzer, joined Fred and really took over for Doc Sadler on the defensive side, and made improvements in year one, and then last year statistically really made a huge jump in terms of some of the metrics that are important to them, which protecting the lane, 2-point shots, defensive rebounding, things that they really put a focus on, and this year it all came together. But certainly I'm a coach, so I love watching good defensive teams, but the stuff that they're running on offense right now is such a high level. Just the intelligence of the 7 or 8 guys that are playing, and just the counters that Coach Hoiberg has, and the ability of them to pass and execute and then only turn the ball over 5 times has been super impressive as well.
One of the things that I guess I've noticed more than anything with this team is that ability to simply roll with whatever's happening at the time. Somebody had posted a national media guy that basically they showed a clip of Nebraska running offensively a play, and it wound up in a simple little layup after a backdoor cut on a basically kind of a ghost screen. And he said NBA coaches to high school coaches need to watch Nebraska's offense. Why? Can you explain what he does and why it is so effective from an offensive standpoint?
Well, they play with such pace and spread, and then what gives them spread is they have the ability to shoot it, at 5 spots. They have ability to pass it. You have Rink Mass as your 5 that I think is averaging in between 3 and 4 assists, which is so rare for a post. So yeah, it's great for high school coaches to watch that, but none of us have the personnel at 5 positions to just execute it. But in terms of the ball movement, the player movement, they don't run a ton of set plays. Fred has some actions, and then they have some counters to actions. It's more of a read and react. But he has really veteran kids that have been in the system, even though there's a lot of new faces. There really isn't. Frager redshirted last year. Jamarcus Lawrence came back. Rink Mass sat out. Obviously Hoiberg and Kel Jacobson had been in the program, so there's a lot of new players out on the floor, but they're players that have been in his system for 2 or 3 years, and I think that's allowed him to advance. And everything they're doing is not only complicated; they were doing it at a really fast pace, which is making even some of the best defensive teams in the Big Ten look silly at times. They just have not been able to guard them.
On the Summit Lawns talk and text line, Andy Markowski, 2-time Husker captain under Danny Nee. This is one of those teams that obviously is really connected. Obviously it's age, and we talk about age. Is that the reason that they're so good? Is that they've just been in the system this long?
No, I mean, you can have selfish older teams as well. I do think it's a combination of, who they've, tried to recruit, the leadership that they've had in that locker room. And then winning sometimes is the best deodorant. You don't really have any choice but to kind of buy in when everything's going well. And,
right.
Even maybe the 8, 9, 10, 11 player that's not playing as much, it's really hard to get selfish when there's just that much momentum and the team is really cohesive. So, you got to credit, the staff and Coach Hoiberg for finding the right group of guys, and then the group of guys that are willing to really play for each other, stay connected. And, obviously their goals are more than just, one player getting all conference, right? I mean, they want to be a group that competes for maybe a Big Ten title and gets that first NCAA tournament win. You heard Sam Hoiberg talk about that, post-game Northwestern. So they put some team goals above their individual goals. And this day and age, that's rare. And I think it's one of the reasons why every Big Ten coach that we have beaten, you don't see a lot of them give compliments. And every one of them has taken time just to say what a fun group Nebraska is and what a great job Fred has done. So I do think it's a testament that they have a unique group that's bought in, and the other coaches in the league have recognized it.
I think it's a bit of a testament to the respect that other coaches have for Coach Hoiberg as well. I'm going to play Jeopardy, Nebraska basketball for 400, and I'm going to ask the question, Nebraska's third leading rebounder is...
I would say Bear K.
Tom?
Sam Hoiberg.
Tom cheated. Yeah, it is Sam Hoiberg.
All right, well,
it is unbelievable. Now, Burke is actually, I think, number 2.
But doesn't he lead them? He leads them in defensive rebounds.
I got that was the stat. Like I said,
It was a setup.
I did not catch the whole game, so I caught the my daughter's high school team was playing, so I caught the end of the game and then the press conference.
Yeah.
Fred had mentioned that Sam was a leading rebounder, so I thought it was a trick question. So, but even the third leading rebounder speaks to
overall.
He's really improved. I felt he played too much a year ago. Meaning, Sam played 22 to 25 minutes a lot of the Big Ten games last year and would score a couple points, get a couple rebounds, have an assist, really was a gritty glue guy. But it was kind of an NBA position in the Big Ten Conference. You have a lot of pros that play the 2-guard or the combo point guard. So I thought Nebraska was giving up some empty minutes there a little bit with Sam playing 24, 25. And the improvement he's made, not only he's still doing all the little things, but his productivity from last year to this year is just off the charts. I mean, he's shooting the 3, he's getting fouled, he's handling it, he's getting assists, and obviously he's up for a defensive, all defensive Big Ten type season. So credit that improvement too, because that's a big reason that Mass is back and Sanford's scoring and Frigger's all freshmen, but I think that the most improvement might be Sam Hoiberg.
But also, I think because they have so many shooters, he's able to get to the rim better than you would think. I mean, last year's team didn't have as many spacers, so you couldn't leave your guy to go guard Sam necessarily. It feels like he can get to the rim on this team where he wouldn't be able to on others.
No doubt that spacing, Stanford alone, everybody is face guarding him, almost eliminating one help side defender. And then you see how far teams are having to play mass. And that's, they lost the season, which hopefully, they've overcame that. My biggest concern on this group is they're really only 7 deep right now.
Yeah.
Garcia will play a few spot minutes. I just, one injury to any of the 7, I think the sum of the parts is what makes it, really good. So I just knock on wood. I hope the group can stay healthy, because that's the one concern I do have is maybe they're not deep enough to withstand not haven't read a seasoning an injury, but even an ankle sprain or an illness where somebody's out 2, 3, 4 games, that could really set the group back.
The other interesting thing with Sam's game is the post moves, like the little drop step post move that he used.
Yeah.
It's to me. So Tom asked the question earlier in the show. Nebraska has a best player and Nebraska has a most important player. Who are they?
Same guy?
No, I think Sanford is probably their best player. The ability to make tough shots. I think late game. He's the guy that Fred's running the action for. I think it all works because of mass versatility at the 5. They really put pressure on teams, postmen to get out on the floor and defend. But again, you could make an argument for all. There's games that Stanford can't get a shot off, and Frigger has to come in because he can put the ball on the floor. I mean, they're all so different and unique, and they can play different styles, which again is one of the reasons why we're 18-0 and have everybody in town and the country talking about the group.
Yeah, it's fun to see Frigger play. Obviously, it's an enjoyable team to watch because they play so connectedly. But Frigger is kind of an X factor for me. His ability to get to the rim and finish.
Yeah, he's had a great freshman year. I think out of high school, he was a recruitable kid, right? At Creighton and Iowa State, and I think there was question marks on what type of impact he could have in a Power 5. But I think it's also a credit to the coaching staff and the weight room, the development that Braden has made over a year. He's now on NBA. Whether or not he's going to be an NBA player or not, he's creeped up on a lot of pro talk and NBA radar just with his to your point, versatility. But there's games he's made. I think he's had games of 5, 6, and 7 threes. And he's probably known as a slasher and a guy that can get to the rim more as a shooter. So, it speaks to his talents and versatility as well.
Well, I'll be honest. It may sound like a weird comparison, but his game a little bit reminds me of Bryce McGowan's with the way and I think Frigger shoots the ball better from 3 than McGowan's did. but he has that ability to just do something with the ball that gets it in the basket, regardless of what you do defensively with the way he drives. And do you see any comparison between the two, or was I spoken something before I went on the air?
No, I agree. I think Bryce probably had the ball in his hands more as a playmaking guard, maybe ability to pass and bring it up a little bit more. But Braden, they're both 6'7", they're both long, they're both super explosive, and McGowan has played in the NBA, right? I mean, so I think they are, uniquely similar in terms of just their build and their style. And, Frager I don't think he understands that he's not supposed to be doing this, right? Which makes it really fun as well. He just plays with just such a freedom and a confidence, which, and he has some insulation with 4 or 5 really mature guys around him, which I think has helped him, maybe calm his emotions when he needs to. If he was on a younger, more immature team, I think maybe some more of that would come out. And Braden is only 18 years old, but I think the nucleus that's around him as veterans has really helped him, prosper and control his emotions when he needs to as well.
Andy Markowski, our guest. You talked about great shooters, and Price is certainly one of them. You played with a great one, and Kerry Cohorn, I think he had the season record for a long time, maybe still stands at 89 in a season. Who would you take in a three-point contest, Kerry or Price Sanford?
Yeah, Kerry could really shoot it, but Price's release is so quick, and I would have to, a season I think broke Kerry's record. When I was doing one of the Big Ten Plus games earlier, I think a season.
Did he?
Broke Kerry's record. But Kerry was right there. Stanford's 6'8", but what people don't realize is Price is, so big. But both were great shooters. Both are going to be in the record books at Nebraska, and hopefully Stanford will keep making, because when he has big games, I think we're going to be really, really hard to beat. He just, he can go score 15, 18, 20 points and make it look pretty easy on 7, 8, 9, 10 shots. He's not taking 20 shots to get his 20, 25 points. He's so efficient on what he's, doing on the offensive end.
Whenever somebody says how efficient somebody is, I always think back to one of the most inefficient leading scorers Nebraska has ever had in James Palmer Jr.
But he was fun.
He scored 24 points. He had 41 field goal attempts.
But he was also double teamed all the time.
Well, again, Fred, you look at our field goal percentage and our assist to turnovers. I mean, they're running high level offense, and at some point somebody's going to beat them. I still think our margin is small. A game that we don't shoot it well, or a game that we get in foul trouble, or there's a team on our schedule, or a couple. I wouldn't be surprised if, we don't lose 3 or 4 in conference, but, we're not going to go out easy. I think we're going to be a hard out and a team that's going to have a chance to play a while in March.
This feels like a team that has gotten better and better, and that happens when you get more confidence and you keep winning. How much better can they get, do you think?
Yeah, I think they're playing at a really high level. I mean, they're rebounding. They're not turning it over. Fred's going to keep layering in. I've always heard this in coaching is the Big Ten is the best scouted league in the country outside of the NBA, right? So coaches are trying to catch up to Hoiberg, but when you have a veteran group like this and other teams don't, Fred's going to keep being able to layer in some additional offensive stuff, which will allow us to stay ahead. So I do think they'll keep improving just because of the maturity and having a veteran group allows you to do that. But man, you don't go on the road and beat teams by double digits like we're doing. I mean, they are playing at a it's rare for us to win on the road, right? And then you just go in and beat Northwestern by 20, and everybody's like, oh hum, we're supposed to do that. So they're playing at a high level right now, and get a couple more, and I guess we'll find out how legit we are at the Michigan game. I think that will be I'm very curious on how their size and length will handle us, and how we can handle their size and length, because we're not the biggest team. If you look at the top 10 teams, we're pretty undersized at a few positions.
Yep.
With Hoiberg, and even Rink is only 6'9", playing the 5. We don't have professional positional size, so hopefully that doesn't catch up to him in a game like Michigan.
Former Husker captain, 2-time captain under Danny Nee in the mid-'90s, Andy Markowski. Andy, great stuff. We appreciate the time.
All right, guys. Happy New Year.
Yep.
Thanks, Andy. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Wow. What a start.
Kerry Cohorn does still hold the record. Sejan had 78 last year.
Yeah.
And
Was I right? Cohorn had 89, right?
He had 89.
Yeah.
Sejan had 78 last year.
Yeah, he was ready to fire. He was kind of like Kasey, ready to fire when he reached half court. But I'll take Sanford just because of the size. You could shoot over anybody or most people. Let's get to break. Come back with more after this. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens. It's Husker Rewind.
You're listening to Husker Rewind. Sean Hannity is next. The most complete weekly recap of Husker sports.
Kaboom! And their body bumping and away.
Husker Rewind with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Now the drive on the right side to Crop. Drop step, puts it up, missed the shot. Ball tip, Jacobson to Hoiberg. Looks up the floor, gets it back to Jacobson. Throws it to Sanford, shoots up a 30-footer. Bang! Bang, Ringo. Holy smokes! The Huskers are on fire!
You looked up the math. You think that Sanford is going to break Kerry Cohorn's record. And Kerry does still have the record, 89.
Yeah, 89. Connor Sejan hit 78 last year. Currently, Sanford has 60 with an average of 3.3 makes per game. If Nebraska only played 15 more games, that would be 50 more makes, which would put him at 110.
He has, I mean, maybe I would take Pike's shot over his, and Pike had a quick release as well.
Oh, yeah.
They're very similar. Pike
really
was probably way more athletic than Sanford and played a long time in the NBA.
Yeah.
Pike could get above the rim and jam it pretty easily. So Pike was a better athlete, but as far as shooters, there's not many in Nebraska basketball history that I would put against Sanford other than Eric Markowski maybe stop there.
Yeah.
Cohorn was a good player and a good shooter, but he was only 6'2", 6'3".
He was always my favorite player because I was horrible at jump shots, and the 3-point line came into high school in 1986
Cohorn
when I
was your favorite
graduated in
player?
'85. Cohorn was always my favorite player because he was smaller, but he shot threes like I shot threes.
Yeah.
I never met a three that I jumped. I didn't play with the 3-point line in high school because it wasn't there. 86 was the first year of the 3-point line in high school, and I graduated in 85. And not that I played basketball my senior year, but regardless. So I never got to shoot like what would be a 3-point shot. If there would have been a 3-point line when I did play in high school, I didn't jump. It was all set shots. Like I had to come off a screen and I would be set. And it was almost like I needed to, like a free throw, dribble a couple of times and then shoot.
I think he's sometimes frustrated, Danny Nee, because he wasn't the most athletic guy. We're not a great defender, but man, could he shoot. And not highly recruited.
Still one
out of Iowa.
Guys.
Yeah. We talked about Sam's ability. You had the question to Andy Markowski, who's the third leading rebounder.
Overall third leading rebounder.
Kind of a trick question. It is Sam Hoiberg. He's had games where he's had 10 or 9. And in fact, I heard Caleb Henry on the I-80 podcast this morning say he's going to get a triple-double and have 4 points. He's going to have 10 steals. He's
10 rebounds,
10 rebounds,
and 10 assists.
Yeah, he's going to have one of those games. But rebounds will be among those if he does have a triple-double. And here's Fred Hoiberg talking about his son about rebounding.
If I'm not mistaken, he's our leading defensive rebounder to this point in the season. I mean, he just finds a way going in there. If he was 6'8", he'd be Dennis Rodman. I'm just kidding. But, he just has a way going in, not only the rebounds, but getting loose balls. And, I think he's one of the top guys in the league. I think before the game, he was a leading steals guy in the Big Ten. So he just finds a way to make an impact, even though he's not the biggest guy out there. He plays with a ton of heart. And, it's good to see how he's grown over the years.
He has grown dramatically. You heard Andy Markowski say he had 24 minutes last year, and he thought at times maybe that it was too many. It doesn't feel like whatever he's playing, 30-plus minutes this year, that it's too many.
So that answer to the question was a coach talking about a player on his team. And I would absolutely love to hear his dad answer. I mean, I can't even fathom, and we got a little bit of it, and I can kind of fathom because of Andy Markowski last year, asking him about Alexis during the season, and you could just the proudness that he had, and it wasn't just her basketball, but it was just every part of her and how she'd grown over the years and everything else, and you could hear the pride in his voice when he would talk. And Fred does such a good job when he's asked questions about Sam to answer about Sam Hoiberg, his player. And I'd love to like pivot and have it not be in a press conference setting, a one-on-one interview after the season, but talk about Sam in the light of, hey, tell me about your son, Sam.
Yeah.
And what it was like as a father watching him play this year for Fred Hoiberg. And have Fred answer that. Like I would love to see that done. I hope
it's got to be the biggest joy.
It's brilliant.
Nebraska has 2 players, one on the women's team, one on the men's team, playing for their parent.
Yep, Kennedy Williams.
Kennedy Williams plays for Amy, and of course, Sam plays for Fred. That just doesn't happen many places in college basketball. Sometimes happens more at the high school level, but it's crazy that's happening at Nebraska. And Sam, obviously, making a huge impact, as will Kennedy as she gets older. She's young in the program. Sam is a senior. I did want to talk about the transfer portal before we take off. Some like what Nebraska has done in the transfer portal. Others, yeah, but you hear that a lot. They got quarterback. They got a quarterback. They got Anthony Calandre, and I like him. I think he's going to be a good quarterback, and maybe better than Dylan Raiola. 3,400 yards, 650 yards running, 10 TDs. He threw for 23 TDs. He seems like maybe a better fit for Dana Holgerson's offense. So I think they've got a good quarterback there. Of course, they added Daniel Kalen as well. And then you got TJ Lateef. So you've got some competition. The biggest going into the portal, I thought Nebraska needed to address 2 areas in particular. Offensive line, and I think they did a pretty good job with the offensive line. They got 3 guys that I think are day one starters. Brendan Black, the transfer from Iowa State, offensive guard, played a lot of games at Iowa State. Tree Babalade, he is a tree. He's a big man, 6'5", 330 plus pounds. I think he'll be your right tackle on the opposite side of Elijah Pritchett. So I think they'll be good as far as tackle is concerned. Great. I don't know. And then they got Paul Mubanga, the transfer from LSU, offensive guard. Alabama wanted him, pretty highly recruited. So they got three, starters, day one starters to mix in with some of the younger guys, along with Evans at center. So I think that you've got a good nucleus there. They did not, for me, address the defensive line, which was among the worst in the Big Ten and the country. They were not a good run-stopping team. When I think of a good run-stopping team, I think of guys like Nash Hutmacher and Ty Robinson. They don't have those guys. They don't have those guys on this defense. They got Owen Stottlemyre, a transfer from Boston College, about 6 feet, 280. They got Jasir Whittington, who is a transfer from Pitt, 6'1", 290. They lost the kid, Andy Bergisa. I don't know how it's pronounced, but the transfer from Iowa Western. So
it's not a done deal there. He has not made up his mind if he's going to Clemson or Nebraska.
Right. It sounds like Clemson.
He's also committed to 4 different schools in the last 2 weeks.
And he is a JUCO, and he's a JUCO All-American. But you never know what you're going to get, I don't think, with JUCOs. It's a different day and age with JUCOs. Sometimes you catch a diamond in the rough, no matter where you get the player. But I don't think they have a Ty Robinson in the bunch.
No.
And they needed one. They needed to go out and spend $1 million+ on a big time defensive tackle, which tells me they probably didn't have the money. Now, if you're looking at the bright side, they didn't lose a lot of guys to the portal. They lost Keona Davis, a big loss. Well, they lost Dylan Raiola, but we knew that was going to happen. And not a lot of others. Not a lot of others that you would say, hey, that's a big, huge loss you can't withstand.
The other interesting thing, though, with Keona Davis is Keona Davis's name has yet to show up in the portal.
So they could get him back.
I don't know. I have not. Every report that I've seen.
And he hasn't said anything or tweeted anything, right?
No, and every time you read about the fact that he said he's going in the portal, somebody puts a little side note that says, by the way, his name still has yet to appear. Now, maybe that's changed in the last 24 hours. I haven't, I didn't double check or triple check this morning, but I have seen every article about him that has stated that he's going into the portal. Also will note he has not officially, or his name has not popped up in there yet. So who knows? Maybe he comes back.
Well, so I like what they got to quarterback. I'm actually happy they didn't get Kenny Minchie, the transfer from Notre Dame.
Yeah, I was not impressed at all.
Matt Rule said that Kentucky stepped in and offered a blank check. Maybe that's good because maybe Kenny Minchie turns out to be a great player, but he doesn't have a lot of college experience.
The thing is, Kenny Minchie's agent said Kentucky is offered less. It was just a better situation.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? It's a he said, she said thing. I like Quasi Gilmer. I mean, his production at UCLA was pretty good at wide receiver over the last couple of years. I think they did okay at linebacker. Owen Chambliss seems like a good fit from San Diego State. They got Dexter Foster from Oregon State, a linebacker, and Will Hawthorne, maybe more of a project from Iowa State. So they did some good things, but the thing that they didn't do well is going to gnaw at me. That's defensive tackle.
Yeah,
if you can't stop the run one year and you're relying on development to do it the next year, I just don't know about that.
Well, I thought they needed a running back. Maybe it is Marty Brown after tomorrow night's game. I don't know. I thought it was I mean, if we're going to grade Nebraska's portal overall comings and goings, I think it's a solid D+.
Oh, that's a little harsh. I was going to go C+.
I'm going D+.
Well, you don't know until you know.
Yeah, I mean, everybody they got may turn out to be borderline honorable mention all conference.
I mean, who would have thought all those guys from James Madison going to Indiana would be this good and playing in a national title game? We have a pick.
We got one game left
of density.
It's time now for the picks of density.
Because it's a pick. A destiny.
Wait a minute. It says density on here?
On your density.
Oh, I get it. Because your picks carry a lot of weight, right?
Ah, man. That's so heavy.
All right, let's roll with it. The picks of density.
Obviously, the only game out there is for college football that is left is the national championship game between Miami and Indiana. Indiana, a 7.5-point favorite.
And if you had Miami taking on Indiana before the year started, maybe you could believe that because Indiana was in the college football playoff last year.
Well, if you would have thrown it out, my first comment would have been, hey, that's a hell of a story.
Yeah.
And it is. It's turned out to be. Over-under is 47.5. Those are the two main bets. They've got some fun prop bets, though. Is there going to be a special teams touchdown or not? Does either team score in every quarter? You got Carson Beck passing yards, passing TDs, Malachi Toney receiving yards, all that type of stuff. Same thing with Fernando Mendoza. Even Marty Brown. Who knows? Is he at Nebraska next year? It sounds like no, but he's got a rushing yard total of over or under 25.5.
I think he's had a few TDs in the playoff, too.
Yeah.
He's played well.
So we'll make that one of the picks. Marty Brown, over or under 25.5 yards tomorrow night?
I'm going to say against that Indiana defense, under.
You know what? I'm going to say over because go Marty Brown, Nebraska kid. Let's see him do well. How about Fernando Mendoza rushing yards, over or under 15.5, including sacks?
Oh, I think over.
Really?
I think over.
Okay.
He's faster than you think. And I know he's not the most athletic guy in the world, but he's solidly athletic.
Okay. Elijah Surratt, receiving yards, over or under 56.5.
He tends to spread it around. It's pure luck whether or not one guy isn't Becker their big target.
Yeah.
I'm going to say he gets that, though.
I will, too. All right. The two big ones, though. How about over under 47.5?
I'm going to go under.
I am, too. Even though I think Indiana's going to win by double digits.
Yeah.
And that's going to be my pick as well. Give the 7.5 points. Take the Hoosiers.
Is it 7.5? I thought it was 8.5.
It's now 7.5.
Okay.
This is live on where I make my.
All right.
For fun.
Yeah, I
only
like
wagers.
Indiana. I think Indiana wins and they cover.
Yeah.
That's going to be
Same
fun.
here.
Will it be the greatest story in college football history if they do win?
Boy, it's going to be tough to top it.
Yeah. Go Hoosiers. I'm rooting for them.
Yep.
Got to
Same
root
here.
for the Big Ten. That's what my dad always said. Got to root for your league. All right. We'll see you next week.
See
you, Mike. Bye-bye.
The new year means